Hello, my friends. Welcome back. I am your local art witch, and today we are continuing our tarot journey, and we have reached the major arcana. So, when we think of tarot in general, we have almost two separate decks. I think of them as houses. So, we have these two houses. These are the major cards, which we're going to be going through. And then this other house, these minor arcanas, which are made up out of our elements and the court cards, which you can see that video, I think, up here. I've decided to do this one a little differently this week. I've got our trusty Modern Witch, the Ethereal Visions, and the Golden Art Nouveau. I wanted us to kind of look at what we have, the similarities and the differences, and see what kind of associations we can make. The majors are generally 22 cards. Some decks will have bonus cards, but we're going to cover the cards that most decks will come with. These are representative of forces beyond what we would consider our everyday forces that are way beyond our control, major life themes. The major arcana is seen as a path of enlightenment. We have this idea of the fool's journey. We can see it as one story. I prefer to think of it in 3 separate arcs where we deal with our lifespan, the things that we learn, like day-to-day earth things that we can get caught up in, but there's also a spiritual journey and like a higher self type of journey contained within these cards. Body, mind, spirit is how I prefer to see the Fool's Journey. Some of the differences we're going to notice with the majors versus the minors, and this will depend on the deck, of course. But usually we will see with the minors, it is numbered in a way that is easily understood by us. We can easily read it, and that's even if it's in writing or the numeral down here. With the majors, it's trickier because we're going to be dealing with Roman numerals here. So a little bit of learning how to read these numerals as we continue might be one of your bigger obstacles to remember how it works. Here we have the Fool in each of these decks. The Fool is number 0. We have a true beginning, true potential, freedom. Our journey is going to contain many obstacles and challenges, but that doesn't have to be a negative thing. These obstacles and challenges are going to help us improve mentally, physically, and spiritually once we get through that hard section. I find majors also show up before a large life-changing event is about to come up, an upcoming theme. Some people that I read for have these reoccurring themes throughout their lives. Depending on the effect it has had on their life, it will show up either more often or as a bigger card sometimes. Some people, particularly Capricorn people, they regularly come up with hermit cards or rest cards. So when these cards show up, either a change has already occurred. We think of it in a before event and then after. So who were you before? I'm sure all of us can think of a major world event. We remember exactly where we were when it happened, and we remember how we perceived the world before and an after. And there's kind of no going back once it has occurred. So sometimes these cards not only will show us themes that have done that to us, but it can warn us of upcoming trials or even ones that we are currently dealing with that maybe we don't realize is going to affect us as much as it may. The digits tend to be at the top here. This deck, it's way down here. We're going to look through these cards, give some keywords and associations. Some of them will be just purely how I see the card, and that's based on my own life experience, of course, and that's part of the beauty of tarot. You're going to have different associations with some of these cards. Some of the cards that we're going to be going through appear more frightening than they actually are, so we're going to just bear that in mind. The Fool is about new beginnings, a new journey or adventure of some kind. It can be a sign to take a leap of faith. We see the Fool here traveling along. Generally, they're not watching where they're going, and they've got this cliff here that they're about to walk off. This is the only fella. He seems very aware of where he's going, but he's got an umbrella. We have this idea that they're going to be fine when they walk off. It's going to be okay. The Fool generally has a little pouch, and in some of them, you'll see little tools in his pouch. I've seen some cards he'll have a little pentacle and wand. All the major elements from the minor arcana will be in his pouch. The idea that we have what we need to begin to start. Reversed, we want to think of it sort of inverse of its general reading, and that's going to be true of the cards as we go through. We are getting a warning to tread more cautiously, to wait on that big leap of faith, so that way we don't fall and get hurt. The Magician. Your magic is blossoming. Things are coming together. The Magician has all these tools on his altar. Cup, pentacle, sword. He's got a wand around here somewhere. We've got this symbol of eternity, of cycles, up here above the head. And this is telling us that we have all the tools at our disposal. We've got it. I particularly like this card when we're thinking of business or opportunity, because it's telling us to just get started. We have everything that we need. You don't need to buy this other thing. You don't need to keep purchasing or planning. It's time to just take that step because you got it. You've got the knowledge and the ability. Here we have the High Priestesses. We have themes of equality and balance with these pillars here, and in generally opposing colors. She's a little bit harder to see. Here we go. She symbolizes knowledge and the seeking of it. We see these scrolls or books, and this lady here has a computer. We can't know everything, however. That's symbolized by this veil behind her. It's usually a pomegranate veil, which whispers toward the unknown and the beyond. Pomegranates symbolize the underworld and secrets. When we think of Persephone with Hades, she eats the 6 pomegranate seeds, and that's why we have winter. So she even sort of governs the unknown, secrets and mysteries with this moon here. Take your time, consider your options carefully, meditate, put off that big decision, and even seek outside sources. Consider your options. The Empress is love, abundance, fertility. She can often display as a pregnant person. We see flowers, this lush abundance all around her. This little symbol here is the symbol of Venus, which is love. She's a confident lady. She's got all of her stuff. She's bedecked. She's confident, connected to the world around her, connected to herself, empowered by her incredible love and care for the people around her. She's empowered by her sexuality. She doesn't let people shame her for that. This is about enjoying yourself, nourishing yourself spiritually, physically. The Emperor is about structure, boundaries, and authority. These things can allow us to be and feel safe. Society needs to have rules and regulations in order for us to live together. We see pictures of rams on the throne, or within the card itself, this character has the rams as their part of their crown. They're crowing right out of their head. The emperor tends to be stubborn, desiring to be first. The ram is also the symbol of Aries. Aries is the first zodiac sign, and that wants to be first. We have fire energy here, so stubborn, wanting to lead, structure, and authority. The Hierophant is a sign to learn from the past, from each other, from teachers, higher authorities. We see usually some kind of pope. This tends to be highly Christian imagery, and that's based on when and where the cards were first fully illustrated. And we'll discuss that in a different video. But we see this pope, we get this idea of authority, and we can see that he's bestowing knowledge on his disciples here. They appear to be in supplication to this pope. I sort of prefer this one. We have an idea that it's a little bit more equal. These characters don't appear to be groveling. And I enjoy that she doesn't appear as Christian. When I see Christian imagery, it gives me more themes of restriction, of rules. And I mean, rules aren't bad. We need them to exist in society. But there's a closed-mindedness for me personally when I see this type of imagery. And that could be completely different for you, and that is totally fair. So this card is a good sign to take time to focus on your spiritual journey, your psyche, get in contact, or focus on your deity if you have one, study diligently. Here we have the Lovers. This card tends to be tricky for me, once again, because of this Christian imagery here. I was raised as a fundamentalist. I was raised as a young earth creationist. And so this imagery is less symbolic to me, I think, than it would be for a person who was taught how the world actually works. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, as particularly with this Lovers card. Generally, getting the Lovers card is a good sign. Shows as great potential of either meeting or finding that someone's special, or confirming that you've already found that person. We see these people naked in a garden, except for this card. They're a little dressed. There tends to be an angel over them. This idea that in this card, it looks like they're watching out for them. In this card, it appears more judgmental to me. The nakedness here, to me, usually looks like vulnerability. You're being completely open with this other person. Trust. We're respectful of each other. I like this one. They're on even grounds. With this card, because of the way I was raised, I was taught that Adam and Eve were literal people in a literal garden, literally about 6,000 years ago. And because of this fire, because of how this angel is looking down on us, we have the snake in the tree of knowledge. The tree of eternal life is on fire here. This looks like they've been judged. They've eaten of the tree and they're about to be expelled from the garden. And that has more kind of negative associations with it for me, because they're about to go and toil and work hard and suffer. But the people in this garden, it looks peaceful and serene. So I prefer this one. But this card can sort of symbolize, at least to me, even with this more negative Christian context in this card, that you could take it as we're going to be able to survive these trials together. We've got each other at the very least. This one is quite a bit more peaceful. This is generally what you want to think of when we pull the Lovers card. This is the feeling it should have, this peace, this trust. Like, look, She's able to rest in his arms like it's really, really sweet. The Chariot. This is a speedy, confident card. We're moving fast here. This character is ready to fight. The battle may not be easy. Victory is assured, however. We've got these fast animals here. We've got these themes of light and dark. But this person looks completely ready to handle it. We've got our armor on. This person doesn't, but generally the character is wearing armor. I really like this one in particular, the motorcycle. We understand that it's fast. This looks slower to us in our current culture, but he's also bedecked here. It looks rich and promising. This card tells us it's time to get things done. Victory is assured. If it's upside down, you got to slow down. Victory is not assured. Be careful. Strength. This is one of my very favorite cards. Strength generally is a lady who has tamed a lion. It's a very peaceful, confident looking card to me. Look how peaceful and at ease she looks with the lion. The lion's on her side. It almost looks like he could be protecting her, but she's also mothering and protecting him. So she has conquered something, maybe a fear, not just of things happening, situations, lack of money. It's not necessarily those types of fears, but also fears of maybe something she's really insecure about, something that she would be ashamed to tell others. And it doesn't have to be bad or something that all of us may be ashamed of, for example. Like if, I don't know, she robbed a bank and she's scared that she'll be caught. It's not that type of thing. It's generally a fear that doesn't mean anything about you as a person. Particularly with women, I think of it as this extra confidence in her body, in her knowing that she knows what she's doing in the job, in life. She's not afraid of people judging her. She knows who she is. Accepting your fears, anxieties, it takes enormous courage and strength, but you've got this. That's what this means. Here we have the Hermit. It is generally a huge signifier that either you or the querent, whoever is being read for, needs a break, a time of solitude, time of escape, to think, to study, to get back in touch with themselves. This card tends to show up for people that I would think of as a workaholic. They've got like 3 jobs and they're still struggling to make ends meet. And that's a real situation that's happening in our world right now. But we need to take this quiet time. I particularly like this one because she still has access to the world here, but she can shut it off at any time. It is time to take a break and focus on yourself. Here we have the Wheel of Fortune. This signifies the life cycle generally. I particularly like the ones where we can see somebody or something on the bottom. We want to think of a wheel that's turning and turning. Life has its ups, life has its downs, and the good news in that is even when we're at a low, we're not going to stay down there at the bottom. This too shall pass. Sometimes it's just really crappy luck. Fortunately, the wheel will keep turning. And we have these heads here. I wanted to show a close-up of this because we have more Christian imagery here, particularly in these 2 cards. Let's discuss this one first. We have the zodiac symbols. This is air, water, earth, and fire. So we have Leo, Taurus, which is a bull, Aquarius, the lady with the vases. People usually think of her as a water sign because she has water in her vases, but she is air, and Scorpio, which is a scorpion. Then when we look at these cards, we've got these same ideas here, the lion, a human face, a bull, and an eagle. These are the heads of a cherubim. The cherubim aren't those cute little babies that we happen to see. They are enormous angels with 4 heads that turn. The head of a man, the head of a lion, a bull, and an eagle. That's kind of just the secret undertone of this card. if you didn't happen to read or study or take time to learn about angels, that could be easily missed. They just look like mythical creatures, right? Particularly with this one here. This one we can understand is probably an angel because he's got the wings. And then if I remember right, these are Jewish letters. This one, and these two. And then we can see that it says tarot in the circle. Here we have justice. We are free to do as we please, but that doesn't free us from the consequences of those actions. We need to take responsibility for our choices. I have found that this card, when I get this, means one of two things. Either I have felt like I have been wronged, usually in a very major way. Justice was not done. I am very hurt, but justice is coming for the other person that was in that situation. Or this is talking about me. I need to sit down and think about how I've been behaving or watching out for the near future about how I'll be behaving. It's warning me that I have been or will be unfair or dishonest. This card does require reflection, introspection, and this can be a struggle. It can be really hard to really look at yourself and be like, where did I go wrong? Here is the Hanged One. I really like this card. It's usually known as the Hanged Man, as you can see here. Somehow, this person is at peace with their situation, despite how uncomfortable they must be hanging upside down like that. They are composed. We have reached the calm after the storm. Justice was a little difficult for us, and we're at peace with the situation. I also read this card as the need to look at a situation differently from a different perspective. These people here are looking at things upside down, looking at it from a completely different angle, and that can lead to some clarity on a situation. This could also mean that once you've arrived from your storm, that you will naturally see things from a different perspective. The Death card being pulled tends to really frighten people. So before I do any read, particularly if they come to me saying that they're concerned about their health or whatever, I warn them that this card is in the deck, but it does not mean that the end of their life is very near. The concept of death does need to be approached differently in our culture, and that's fair, but a different conversation for a different day. This card means the end of a chapter, the end of a situation, the end of a phase of life, perhaps. And just like a loss of a loved one, this can be a painful transition for us. It's a major life change. For example, it's been slowly coming to my attention that I am not in my young mother phase anymore. And that's been obvious for a while, but as parents, we can sort of be in denial about that. I'm not changing diapers anymore. My kids are able to make themselves toast. Potty training is handled. Both of my kids are in elementary school now. So a little bit of grieving is happening because a certain phase is done. I'm not having any more babies, but it's good. At the same time, my kids are becoming independent. They're becoming people, and I'm able to now focus on myself. So it is kind of funny to mourn certain things because there's a bright side to my particular situation, at least, but I have to be okay as well that they're not my little babies anymore. I have to let them out into the world, even though that's frightening. Temperance is about balance. She pours water from one cup to the next, never spilling. She's at peace. She's generally got one foot in the water and one foot on land. She kind of does both. She's telling us that something in our life is off. Perhaps we're so focused on the daily hustle that we haven't noticed that we're burnt out. We need to reassess some things, work to balance ourselves. and things will get easier if we're able to achieve that. It's a very nice, reassuring card when I pull it, at least. I find that it usually means that I'm at peace, that I have temporarily struck some balance, that I need to work to make sure that I continue what I need to do in order to keep that up. Here's the Devil card. It's another deceptively frightening card for some people, particularly where I am. I am in a very conservative Christian area. So getting this guy tends to frighten people. They think that something bad is coming for them or satanic influence is coming. It's interesting because they'll have that fear, but Christians in general tend to see tarot as, maybe it's not Christians in general. Let me rephrase. Christians, where I grew up, would literally think that demons were invited into their house if a tarot card got in their house. I follow a YouTuber that talks about evangelicals and the far right and whatnot. His name is Owen Morgan. I really like his stuff. Anyway, there was a situation where Greg Locke was really frightened because people were putting tarot cards in the floor of his church. He operates out of a tent and it's wood chips or whatever. So people were hiding cards, which is wild. These cards are expensive. Don't do that. But also, I am a terrible person. I thought it was funny. Some people think it's really bizarre to be frightened about that type of stuff. And I agree. Things only have as much power as we give them. But I grew up in that culture. I remember my sister bought me my very first deck and I hid that thing. And I did not have the ability to live with my parents. I lived from home to home to home. And this person that I was living with would just go through my room, apparently, looking for stuff. And I didn't realize she was doing it, but I knew enough that I needed to hide my deck I hid it between my mattress and my bed spring. And then we had to pray for the angels to surround her house because I invited Satan and demons directly into her house by bringing the deck. And she got us to burn the deck outside, like in a little pit. But anyway, and so I find it funny when people want a tarot read that I know are Christian, but they're not in that chapter, in that section of Christianity. So, long story aside, he's deceptively frightening, but he doesn't mean what we necessarily think he means. It doesn't mean we're calling in a dark or negative energy. We're certainly not summoning the devil or Satan. This usually signifies unhealthy habits, dangerous desires, addictions, things that are keeping us chained, things that we need to think about. What is keeping us trapped? Are we depending on something or someone? Are we being too codependent? Do we have an issue with something? I really like a certain pop. I will drink this pop until I literally can't. I've got a little bit of this relationship and it's small in the grand scheme of things, but it's being aware of what our vices are. However, I want to talk to you about an association that I personally have with this card. I love this card. For me, I see this card very differently. Let's talk a little bit about that. We have these people who are chained, and we should assume that they are unaware of their chains. They're in a prison, but they are completely unaware of it. And that is one of the most effective prisons, when you think about it, that there can be. It guarantees that they stay imprisoned by their vice, by whatever desire, whatever it is. This is a good sign to assess things in your life. Be very brutally honest with yourself. However, when I get this card, or when I'm reading for others, particularly if I know that they grew up even a slight flavor close to how I grew up, we're going to talk about this demon here. It is Baphomet, who is a completely different deity. This isn't Satan. He was kind of they were melded together. So for all intents and purposes, I guess he is Satan, but Baphomet symbols the above and below. He has a torch symbolizing knowledge and light, the awareness of these things, in a lot of symbology of him. Like historically, he's androgynous. He has chest, so he symbolizes the male, the female, above and below. He's a very powerful image. With the association of the biblical devil right within the card here, and of course, depending on the surrounding cards, I see this card as permission to indulge, to not allow our restrictions to, like our preconceived beliefs, our shame and stuff, to prevent us from enjoying life. If you want to go, I don't know, have a really tasty dish and you really love it, don't feel guilty for it. Life is short. We only get really one spin, right? Don't be ashamed of your natural sexuality. Our bodies enjoy it for a reason. Let's not get purity culture, these chains, in the way of enjoying how our bodies are supposed to operate. And so that's how I see it. I see the chains as these other things, not that he is the one chaining us, even though that is the imagery within the card. So once again, some of these cards, you're going to have very different associations with it based on your background and how you were raised. Here is the Tower. This signifies a major earth-shaking change. In my experience, this card does tend to be the most violent card. Complete and total change is on the horizon. It's going to shake our foundations. It is going to be painful, emotionally, spiritually, maybe even physically. And we're going to be a different person after. Here's the Star. I love this card. It is a gentle, refreshing reprieve after the big upset that we just had in the Tower. Our life was upside down. We got through it. We're at peace. We're confident and serene. Generally, this person tends to be a lady who is naked, pouring water out, both back in the water and on land. And it's at night. We see that she's confident, vulnerable. She has an abundance of love and energy that she pours into the world. And it's really beautiful. I love this. Here's the Moon. The Moon indicates secrecy, mystery, oddness, imagination, the realm of the mind, being spontaneous and strange is everything that's being signified within this card. I can sometimes take it as a warning too, to just be on the lookout for strange things, like maybe something that's going to hurt me. With the Moon, that talks of emotion, and this creature in the water kind of coming up seems a little ominous, so I take it as a warning that maybe a hurt or a betrayal could possibly be on the way, depending, of course, on the other cards. Here we have the Sun. Generally, it is a small child on a white horse. Under the sun, we have a banner of victory here. We have all these sunflowers. It looks abundant, full of life and energy and innocence, especially when this little child has this white dress on. That can be a big signifier of innocence. We have vulnerability and trust with this child who does not have clothes on. We see a complete lack of concern. Bask, enjoy life, treat yourself. That's what this card means. Here we have Judgment. This is another highly Christian imagery card. We have an angel overseeing, and this one in particular is very clear. We can see spirits raising from their coffins. These people are being raised from the dead. The literal judgment, the apocalypse, as it were, is noted in this card. This one's harder to see. I thought they were floating on water, but they're coming out of their caskets. A time of change is imminent. Situations have changed. Doors are closing or closed, and forces us to change whether we like it or not. However, See all these other people here? We're not alone, is how I see that. It may feel like we are, because each of us has our own separate casket. We're kind of separated, cubicled from each other, but we're not actually alone. We've got it. There are other people that we can reach out to. This is the last card, generally. Some decks do have bonus cards, but this is usually the last card of the Major Arcana. It is the World, number 21, and we've come to the end of our journey. We've succeeded all of our trials. This is a card of joy, fulfillment, unification of the body, mind, and spirit. We see these wreaths here, symbolic of eternal cycles. It symbolizes both infinity and zero in this context has infinite possibilities. All promise, potential. We can see these zodiac signs on this particular card: Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus, and Leo again. But then in these other cards, and this is generally how it shows, is the four heads of that cherubim again. We have everything we need within our reach, all the elements of life, all possibility. She's in this nice purple garb, which talks of abundance, and historically it was a very royal color because purple was expensive and a very expensive dye. So very nice, promising card. We're gonna get everything. It's gonna be great. So let's review. Our Major Arcana deals with large issues beyond our control and beyond our daily norm. This usually deals with more spiritual things, but not always. Pulling one kind of pulls our attention toward that card in the read. It's something we want to look out for. However, having a lot or having a couple is indicative of enormous change, a change that would be big enough that there's going to have that before and after person. And that's not necessarily like in a PTSD kind of way. It's just you're going to be like, wow, I remember who I was before and now I'm different. And that's good, but isn't that wild that I'm so different, for example? So those are the Major Arcana in 3 separate decks. I hope that was helpful, and it was a lot of fun to look at them with you. We can cover a little bit about the history of tarot if you all think that might be helpful, but in general, it was just made in a time when Christian imagery was the most known imagery, so that made it easier for people to look at and understand. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I've been your local art witch, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye-bye for now.